Hello and welcome to part 2 of the How I Create series, which delves into my art creation and curation for Amsterdam exhibitions over the years. In this episode, we'll explore art that didn't make the cut, as well as those creations from bark rubbings or impressions from trees in Flevopark. You can find part 1 linked here and below in the description, and I also recommend checking out the 2 videos covering the Creatives Collective artist group that I founded in 2022. Let's dive in by examining the artwork that didn't make it to exhibition. So typically, I would use white paper to create either striking black and white artwork or a very colorful piece. However, this time I wanted to experiment with a variety of colors on colored paper, enhancing the saturation levels and contrast. Like all experiments, you can expect a certain percentage of failures. So here is failure number 1. I used a warm, neutral colored background, which I thought would be less stark and more suitable for interiors. Once the painting was sketched out, I proceeded to fill in all of the shapes with very strong primary colors. It looked promising, but ultimately lacked depth and values. The creative judges in my head, of which there are many, likened it to kindergarten signage or a sloppy Google logo. What I should have done was use a deeper shade of each of the colors for the outlines. Instead, I committed what felt like a crime against art, which could not be undone. I outlined each shape with a thick black marker and did so poorly. I don't usually throw out artwork as it kind of feels wrong, but I think this hit the paper recycling container. You can always trace or redo it, or perhaps find inspiration to rescue or finish it correctly. Here are a few examples where painting on colored backgrounds worked out exactly as I had hoped, along with some where I revisited or upgraded them or traced them out to create completely new sets of paintings. Across the years, as I began to explore the world and possibilities of color, I noticed that women tended to gravitate towards perhaps these more vibrant pieces. They envisaged perhaps how it would look or were willing to make a bold statement, whereas men lean towards more of the black and whites, neutral tones, such as grey. And this observation led me to consider creating a small collection of artworks in each exhibition in a variety of sizes on like a grey background or a neutral background, utilizing a limited and complementary color palette. These artworks were intended to be colorful, but not overly bold. What I failed to consider is that these darker backgrounds absorb colors applied on top, even when using premium gouache paints. Both the color palette and the shapes used in the composition were not strong enough, resulting in paintings that appeared visually flat. I didn't continue these pieces because they didn't evoke any feelings in me. I found myself rescuing them rather than creating, which diminished my intentions. Perhaps adding a splash of a high contrast color like tomato red could have helped. With this one, perhaps a paler background with some nice complementary accents of colors. However, when the composition, colors, background, and even the size of the paper work against your vision, it's time to put down the paintbrush. Not everything you paint transforms into art. Curation often involves elimination. And over the course of about a year, there was a lot of discarding. At one point, I'd feared I'd lost my artistic mojo. Now let's examine 2 small paintings that I included on a table at an exhibition, something I would never do today. These 2 were framed and on display, yet to me they appear unfinished or rushed. The cohesion simply isn't there. The shapes are crammed onto the page and appear flat, lacking any energy. Although the colors are pleasant and less reminiscent of the Google logo compared to the first disaster I mentioned, the combination of gouache and acrylic paints here doesn't work well together. With more time spent preparing the composition, testing the paints and the colors, I believe we could have achieved a lovely duo of paintings. A jumbled and busy composition does not make a painting interesting. Before we move on to the successful paintings using the shapes found in bark rubbings from Flevopark in Amsterdam, let's speed through 3 large-scale disasters. These last 3 have the colored backgrounds in common, We have a quick look at the green duo, a beige quartet, and two large grey paintings that may well be salvageable. Luckily, I have some video and audio recorded from when I was producing these pieces a little while back, so I'll use these in the video and I'll also give you my commentary. Good morning all. So we're gonna start doing some painting today based on my usual source, which is bark rubbings. If I zoom in there, you can see that there's some really fantastic shapes to be pulled out. So I'm going to start penciling those in. I've started actually drawing out two A2 shapes side by side. So these will be accompanying paintings. One was going to be very, very detailed, quite intricate like this. And one is going to be quite close up and abstract like this. Here is my colors today. I'm going to let the shapes intuitively guide me into which colors to use. But I love this green. It doesn't come across well on the camera, but it's actually a deep, rich forest or leaf green. So just wanted to give you an insight into how I'm starting my day today and how I start the process. Okay, we've come to the end of the day of painting. Just showing you some close-up details. This is the quite detailed one. And then going into the more abstract piece. So here's how these two large green paintings turned out. Not great, but I do like the idea of a detailed and a simplified piece side by side from the same source. The detailed one here looks scatty and unfinished. The shapes and the colors are not really vibing. The painting with the larger shapes works better. I quite like it. Although it is giving me snooker table, I think different tones of these colors may have worked better. I still have these pieces, so I may revisit and redo in the future. This soft, light, creamy beige colored paper is gorgeous, and I wanted to do a deeper tone as the main color, with accents of deep green, blue, and red. I love to work on a group of connected paintings at the same time, but where I think I went wrong here is that I had a muddy and flat main color. I was tapping into beige core in interiors and trying to paint a more commercial set of paintings perhaps. Who knows? Again, these four are kept because although they're disasters, they're still inspiring to me in some way. The final entry on the list of art failures for this video is a set of two large paintings using navy paint on a slate grey background. I actually love these two colours, so I was a little saddened when I seen how flat the paintings were when they dried. This is a case of when I listened to my gut instinct and put the paintbrush down, and I didn't finish them. I know I will pull these out in a year or so and finish, but for now they are on pause. This is the first time that I've shown and spoken about these art failures, so I'd like to know if you enjoyed hearing about them. Would you like to see more in the future perhaps? Or will I share updates when I've rescued, reworked and revisited some of the featured paintings? Share your thoughts with me below in the comments, would you? As promised, let's dive into the bark rubbings and subsequent drawings and paintings from Flevopark. I created quite a collection of bark rubbings from the majestic oak trees near the large open sports fields. I began extracting these shapes all the way back when I had my pop-up store on Waterloo Plain, as you can see from the photos here. The shapes were vibrant, youthful, and practically jumping off the paper. Abstract animals and face-like forms emerged before my eyes. For the last exhibition with the artist group Creatives Collective, I focused on these 5 drawings. Tracing them out again, I wanted to showcase them as a sort of Flevopark family of characters in a new set of paintings. I had stumbled across a few passepartouts in rich and muted shades that caught my eye while I was at the art store stocking up, and they were my colour inspiration. They also got me into using passepartout as part of the creative process, and I even painted some myself. Usually I did not like passepartout and I would frame paintings without it, but this changed now. I chose the character, picked the colour passepartout that I thought would work with the character, and used a similar colour shade in the painting. I liked this character a lot. For some reason, he reminded me of a tough guy called Henry. I wanted to have him squaring up to himself, so I created a mirror effect painting. Here is how these paintings turned out. I was very happy with how they were presented and the visual cohesion. Do you have a favorite character? I think in the near future I will return to this family of characters, as well as bringing the other ones that I have found in the Flevopark bark rubbings to life. Watch this space. So thank you for watching this series of how I create, including some creative mistakes. I'd love to hear your feedback or have you subscribe. You can find the link to the catalogue where a lot of the art featured is actually on sale. And I look forward to sharing how my recent art sale went with you in the next video. Until then, thanks and see you soon.